because I think what people miss is that action kills fear. And for me, when I went on that first seller appointment, I literally almost had an anxiety attack. My girl said she had never seen me that nervous. I was like hyperventilating, like it was bad, but I did it anyway. And it scared the crap out of me. So I think by getting in the car, and I always tell people, start by just finding 500 to 1,000 leads, right? Because that alone, most people will be like, well, I went out and I got 20 addresses. Like 20 addresses is nothing. Like, go find 500 to 1,000 leads, because number one, that tells me that you're committed to a smaller goal at the beginning. It's going to take you a while to get those, and maybe while you're looking, you realize real estate's not for me, and that's okay. It's not for everybody, but I think by having an action plan, sticking to it, holding yourself accountable, and then once you have those leads, use the service, skip trace these people, and either send them mail or cold call them.
Derrick, thank you for joining me for our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm Matt Camp, head of partnerships for DealMachine, and on these, we really like to shine an industry spotlight on experts like yourself and see how you see the world evolving and your experience within real estate. So really excited to welcome on Derrick Acuff today. I know you went from being a server waiting tables to six figures, and you found wholesaling back in 2016. You have over 100 deals under your belt, and many people out there might know you from IG, TikTok, YouTube, just at flipping a house, and you put out a ton of great stuff. So I appreciate you sharing your knowledge with our community again too today.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me, man, and hopefully I can leave some gems for your audience.
Yeah, man. I mean, to kind of start with, I know you've been through quite a lot. Like, you have quite a gritty mindset, it sounds like, in terms of how you got into real estate, how your whole journey of going from waiting tables to being a very successful investor. So can you maybe talk more about your background, your journey, and some of the things that were pivotal decisions along the way to get you where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I think it all starts when I was a kid. I grew up in East Tennessee. I grew up on a farm, just doing a lot of hard labor. Like, a lot of times my friends were having fun at the pool and I'm like in a hayfield and, just doing extenuous labor. My grandparents, they grew up through the Great Depression. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of things that I did as a kid, I feel like played a pivotal part in me being an entrepreneur. When I was like 9 or 10, my grandpa started having me like cut the yard, and like he would pay me like $20, or we would go pick up cans and like save it for a month and then go turn that in, and he would break me off like a little bit of money. I started, like, he taught me how to work a chainsaw, and we would cut wood and then like chop it down, do all that hard work in the summer and then sell it in the winter. So like a lot of these lessons, like, I learned while I was a kid. So as I got older, my dad always lived in Houston. I would come visit, and when I was like 17, he worked for this really rich guy. And basically, while I was here, I just kind of had like a life-changing moment, just being in the room with a lot of people that were just friends with this guy, and they were talking about like real estate and investing. And he was like an engineer that had like sold a design and made a few hundred million. So it was just like, I had never been around people that thought like just higher like this. Like, and it was like the first time I ever heard that you didn't have to go to college to be successful. And when I came, basically, like, that just, it rattled my brain. And on the way home, I just had this like thought of just like, if I want to be successful, I'm going to need to leave my small town, just because of most people that live there, they either once you graduate, you work at Walmart or work at a factory, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, for me, I knew that was not going to work. That year, basically from 17 till the time I graduated, I just started basically putting a plan together, and I started going to college. I was going down this route of being an engineer because I knew if I moved to Texas, oil is a really big thing here. So I would be guaranteed a high paying job. So that's just kind of the path I went down. And then I ended up moving to Houston when I was like 18, just packed up my car, and I'd saved like $1,000. And just started going down this journey of just bettering my life. And that's kind of where it started. And then, a few years, that was in 2012, and in 2015, I was dating this girl at the time, and I got these tickets to go to like a seminar where they were teaching real estate. And I found out about this thing called wholesaling. And that was another one of those moments that just kind of like changed the whole trajectory of my life. And, yeah, it's just, that was kind of where it all began, really.
Yeah. And then you said, I know when you were first getting into it, you were, waiting tables, you were, working a full-time job and whatnot. How did you kind of transition from that into the real estate world? Like, what was that journey like?
Yeah, so after I went to the seminar, that was 2015 in February, I studied basically everything around real estate and just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then I heard a podcast, I think it was like a bigger pockets, and they were just talking about like you need to pick something and focus and just go. And for me, I just looked at my situation. So I picked wholesaling. And, I had been waiting tables while I was in college. It's just a flexible job. You make good money and you kind of make your schedule. So after that, I took action. I got a lead at the end of 2015. I sent out like 40 mailers and got a lead. But to me, that was like proof that it worked. And then I decided, like, come 2016, like, I'm gonna give it my all, like put everything into it. And I had over the summer of 2015, I had finished my associate's degree and I was about to go to U of H and start getting in student loan debt. And I was like, I'm just gonna try this for 2 years, and worst case, I can go back to college. So in the beginning of 2016, I just started marketing. I think my budget was like $200 a month, and I just would send out direct mail. And I just did that basically for 6 months with, I was getting results. I was going on appointments and hearing no and making low offers and, doing all the wrong things. But, along the way, I met my mentor. He had came into my girlfriend at the time. She was a hairstylist, and she met this guy, and he was a flipper slash wholesaler. And, I would just basically bring leads and he would try to close them. And, after 6 months of doing that, I got a deal on my 24th birthday, and we closed about 2 weeks later. And that was like the best money I ever made. And we made $8,000. We split that. And then I had a couple more deals locked up, I think like two more. And like my job, I've never been good with authority per se and people telling me what to do. So, after, some things happened at my job and they were just trying to talk to me crazy, and I just was already done real estate deals. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do this. So that's kind of how I transitioned into, doing real estate full time. I don't think that that's the right way to do it because I quickly went broke, and we can talk about that. But, that's just kind of how I transitioned out of waiting tables and going full into real estate. I just kind of burned the ships, which, like I said, it worked for me. That doesn't mean it'll work for everybody.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to ask next, was saying like, hey, I know you often are putting out content, speaking to newbies and us as well. Plenty of people watching this are considering getting into real estate or newer to it. Do you have any tips or advice for them on how to make that transition, how to get into it for the first time?
Yeah, I think the first thing is expectations. A lot of times in life, we give ourselves these unrealistic expectations, whether that's this is going to happen this quick or this is going to, take this long. It's usually going to take you twice as long as you think. So just be okay with that. But also, I think, focus. Like I said, when I heard that podcast, I figured out that wholesaling is what would work for me given my financial situation. And that's all I focused on. And then to even niche it down even more, I focused only on probates because I realized I could get those leads for free, and then I would only have to pay for the direct mail. So my $200 budget, it just went towards like the envelopes and the paper. So I think by like focusing and just being like super honed in on one thing, and then when you have results, right, you should probably have like 6 months worth of savings. I had like maybe two, and I was blowing it fast, right? Because you're like, I'm going to keep doing deals. And, I got lazy, and then I quit doing deals, and then I ran out of money. And then it's like, I had to get really scrappy again, on how I was able to, bounce back from that. But I think, just making a plan, right? And even if your plan is, 6 months of savings, maybe you do 8 months just to be safe, and let your job know what you're doing too. I kept, with what in the restaurant industry, I kept telling them, hey, because they kept trying to promote me. It was like, as soon as I was trying to leave, they wanted to like give me more. And I was like, I don't really want this responsibility. But I was making a plan to leave. And then, like I said, we just kind of ended on a bad note, and they did some things and I just didn't agree with it. So, I just jumped. But I think at the end of the day, that lesson of when you get set up and you're secure and you have met all those requirements, you're going to have to eventually take action and leave your job. And, that can be very scary for most people. You know, a lot of my friends, they left corporate jobs of making six figures. For me, it wasn't that hard because I was making like 30, 40 grand a year. You know, that's like one or two real estate deals. So, you know, I think just by, you know, implementing a plan, focusing, and then once it comes time to actually jump, you know, you're going to have to take that action.
Yeah. And I know you said your business partner, you know, was a big part of that as well, like a big positive influence and some, you know, a game changer, it sounded like, on your journey. Can you give any advice there on how to find that partner or mentor, you know, how to evaluate one, just, you know, thoughts on you know, that whole side of real estate?
Yeah, so I'm gonna touch base on two things: the mentor and then the partnership.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
the mentorship came first, the partnership actually came down the road. So with the mentorship, I've made videos about this, and I think the best way to explain it is like mentorship is like if you're going after the opposite sex or, you know, whatever you're attracted to. If I was out and I wanted to talk to a girl at the bar, I'm not just gonna go up to her and be like, "Hey, be my girlfriend," right? Because that's weird. She's probably gonna mace you. I always say it's like building a relationship. Maybe I buy her a drink first, maybe I compliment, whatever it is, it's a relationship. So with my mentor, you know, my girl met him and I followed up for a couple weeks, but you know, he just wasn't taking the time. And I get it now that I'm in the business. A lot of people say they want to do real estate. Well, after like 3 or 4 months, you know, we had been going on appointments and like he came back in for another haircut. My girl just kept updating him and he was like, oh, well, you know, that actually, like, started telling him about some of the deals and he was like, well, why didn't it work out? And you know, he started to see that we were serious. And you know, and she just kept telling him like, yeah, you know, I mean, we're going to do it, we would love your help, but you know, I don't need that, you know, we're going to figure it out regardless. And I think that's one of the things that people miss is like, not only do you have to add value, it goes back to, you have to be taking action, you have to get in the ring, you have to talk to sellers. And anytime somebody comes to me and they want to get started, that's the first thing I tell them: bring me a deal. If you can figure out how to talk to sellers on your own, people like me and Max Maxwell and all these other people put out enough content, you can figure out the basics. Once you stumble upon a motivated seller, I can get you to the finish line. And that's basically what he did with me. So, you know, by showing up, providing value, and taking action first, without him, he was willing to help me. So I think that's the best way to get a mentor, because I know a lot of people get stuck there and they think they have to have a mentor to succeed. And I was like that for a long time. And then I just realized like, I got to figure this out. I don't have any options on the table. Now, when it comes to my partner, I had actually been doing wholesaling full time for about 2 years when we met. And just like any other relationship, it started with me providing value. I'd ask him a question on social media. He answered, and I was just like, hey, if you ever wanted to do lunch, let me know. Because he lived in my area. We did lunch went good. I didn't honestly think anything was going to come of it, but as always, when I left, I told him, hey, if you ever need anything, I know you have a full-time job, I do this full-time, I'm happy to help, like close a deal, whatever it is. And that's what happened. 2 weeks later, he sent me a lead. I went to walk it. I locked it up. I sold it. I basically did everything for him, and we split that deal. And then we kind of did that for like 6 months before I like to say, get in bed together or made it official. Because you really need to see how people work. And with real estate, there's a lot of money usually involved, life-changing money. And, you know, seeing how people react with that, their morals. I always say like money, morals, and goals is like your top three things you need to focus on when it comes to, you know, solidifying a partnership. Because you may have two of those, but not all three. And I think with me and my business partner, we were always on the same page with everything that, and still to this day, that we want out of our life. There are portfolios, businesses that we run, money. We've never had an issue. We've never done an agreement. Like, we've just always been on the same page. So I'm very blessed in that manner. But, you know, I think you got to be on the same page about everything, and you got to have hard conversations. Like, this business, like, I am so quick to have a hard, in the morning I have to go have a hard conversation with some squatters. Like, it's just, you're gonna have to get uncomfortable in this business.
Yep. That's great advice. Do you think so for newbies as well? Like if they, you know, if they're getting out there, they're you know, listening to this, they're trying to educate themselves. You know, where do they start to take that action? Like, how do they get to that motivated seller? You know, I know a lot of people on here are you know, thinking about other partners, other mentors, that kind of thing. I think you saying lead with value and lead with action is a phenomenal way to approach it. Do you have any kind of advice or playbook there you can give people?
Yeah, I mean, So I mean, we're on DealMachine, right? We're talking about DealMachine. I think that if that's your budget, right, that's how you want to get started, just go. Like, you have the app, you have the tools, sign up, even if it's not the best package for right now. The point is to get going, because I think what people miss is that action kills fear. And for me, when I went on that first seller appointment, I literally almost had an anxiety attack. My girl said she had never seen me that nervous. I was like hyperventilating, like it was bad, but I did it anyway. And it scared the crap out of me. So I think by getting in the car, and I always tell people, start by just finding 500 to 1,000 leads, right? Because that alone, most people will be like, well, I went out and I got 20 addresses. Like, 20 addresses is nothing. Like, go find 500 to 1,000 leads, because number one, that tells me that you're committed to a smaller goal at the beginning. It's going to take you a while to get those, and maybe while you're looking you realize real estate's not for me, and that's okay. It's not for everybody, but I think by having an action plan, sticking to it, holding yourself accountable, and then once you have those leads, use the service, skip trace these people, and either send them mail or cold call them. But and then when you have, right, say you do these things, you're like, Derrick, I listened, I did all this, I actually have a motivated seller, but I have no idea what I'm doing. If you hopped in your Facebook group, or there's somebody that you follow online that's in your market, and if a new person calls me and says, Derrick, I have this lead, I just don't know how to get it to the finish line, I will happily, and I'm sure anybody will happily help you close the deal, because not only is that the best way to learn, you're going to make money in the process, and it's real. And I love seeing people get their first check, because that's when it becomes real, when you get the fruits of the labor. And sometimes that might take 6 months. One of our mentees, it took him 2 years to get a deal. It's all about the amount of work that you want to put in.
Yep. Yeah, I love that mindset too of going, like you said, put in your first, 500 to 1,000 leads. I mean, being able to do that, like that's going to set you up for long-term success and show you're committed. And if you bring somebody a lead like that, I mean, like you said, it shows they're serious, and you're doing some of the hardest work is finding that, getting that seller on the line there. So, yeah, that's great. I think for our most most of our audience, like I said, it's more the people watching this just getting into it. Some as well are evolving and have done some deals and are looking to continue to grow and possibly pivoting their strategy. How is your guys' real estate investing strategy evolving? Like, can you kind of walk through how that's changed from that first deal you've done?
Yeah, so I will say two things. I will say our exit, what we do with the properties looks different nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
but we still do the same thing. And me and my partner talk about this all the time, is like, I just need opportunities to speak with off-market people who have properties that are off-market that are in need to sell. If I have enough of those opportunities, and we buy, deeply discounted off-market properties, we can figure out the rest. How that is transformed for us, we still wholesale. I think I have like 3 wholesale deals about to close. We've closed a couple in the last couple of weeks, but we're doing a lot more flipping these days, because we've found these really good deals over time. Some of my buyers and people that I work with are like, hey, I like this deal, you got it, I didn't, but I have money if you want to, if you ever need money to lend on these projects. And that led into more relationships and more money and millions of dollars and like all these opportunities. So even though that we're flipping, we're doing like hotel deals, relisting as is, we're doing short-term rentals, we're building a portfolio for that, we're doing regular rentals, we're about to start a new development. It all starts with the same thing of just finding deeply discounted off-market properties. So even though the exit may look different, we are still doing the exact same thing that we've done from day one. But by staying focused and doing that, it's led to all these different opportunities. And I'm excited to see where it goes, because we're just going to keep doing bigger deals. But it's, as long as we find deeply discounted off-market properties, I think we'll always be good.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, I loved your response whenever I said, hey, we have a lot of people who are, thinking about timing in the market and don't know, like, hey, when should I get into real estate? Can you talk through how you usually answer that too?
Yeah. I think people are always looking for excuses, right? And whether you think it is right or wrong, you're always right. So, if you think the market is hot and it's not a right time, you probably shouldn't do it. If you think it's a great time to get in, you should probably do it. It's all about what you believe. I can tell you this, I've been in real estate for 6 years now. And through the ups, the downs, the city flooding, hurricanes, snowstorms, pipe freeze, I mean, what you name it, I've seen, a decent amount in the last 6 years. I haven't seen everything. I can tell you that as long as I find deeply discounted off market properties, I will always be good. Now, whether the market goes up or down, that just means I need to buy cheaper or at higher price points. But regardless, if I just look for those really good deals, it'll always make sense. Especially, we're very fortunate being in Houston. The market is like, people don't realize how good we have it here. But, I think that, as long as we do that one thing, I think that we'll always be good. And, there's just so much noise. That's the bad about social media. Everybody has advice, crypto, NFTs, real estate, wholesaling, all this stuff. This is why focus is essential, because you have to drown out the noise. And then on top of that, you have people around you, right? This is the thing, is like, people take advice from people that have no reason to give them advice. Like, if your aunt's telling you you shouldn't buy an investment property, has your aunt ever bought an investment property? Because
Right.
that's what I learned. And like, being in that room with the millionaires, and now a lot of my friends are millionaires. They don't worry, like, they got really good at one thing, and that's what they focus on, and they just kind of don't listen to the noise, unless it directly affects them.
Yeah, that's a great mindset. Um, well, you are right about being, I know you're on the, Deal Machine conversation, Deal Machine podcast like this. So we talk about finding deals. When you get through, and if the end result is like, hey, we want to buy that, deeply discounted deal in our market. How do you have that hard conversation with the seller? Like, do you have tips on the negotiation process, how to how to come, how to go through that whole process, especially the very first time?
Yeah, absolutely. So my partner Ben, this is another reason why I'm lucky, is he is amazing at building rapport, and he's just a genuine person. Like, he'll start a conversation with anybody. I'm more of a red personality. I'm very direct, but I study sales skills a lot, and I'm a good person. So I think number one, it starts with that, being a good person. What you need to realize is, anybody that you talk to, even if they say they're not ready today, or they tell you, F off, whatever it is, you need to follow up, right? You need to work on your sales skills, and you need to be a good person, and you don't need to waste people's time. A lot of times, like, I see people get into this business, especially when it comes to wholesaling, which is probably why we have, regulation and things coming into the space, is because, someone sees a house for 200,000 and they lock it up for 195 and try to sell it for 205, right? And it's like, nobody who's making money. And then on top of that, you're wasting sellers' times. And I hear this all the time. Like, we just got a lead the other day. Unfortunately, the numbers do not work, but they moved their entire family out of the house and everything. And then the day before closing, the wholesaler was like, I'm not going to be able to close, or he may not even got back to them, right? It was just a low down move. So I think by just being a good person, listening, right? When you get on the phone, don't try to talk. You should ask open-ended questions, listen. Some really good books to read are like Never Split the Difference, and How to Win Friends and Influence People. Just learning how, like, communication works, learn your personality types. Your blues, your yellows, your reds, your greens, study these things. And this is all free information that people can look up. And by listening and then offering a solution, at the end of the day, people are going to have a price. And you'll have some sellers where price is the only thing that matters. But what we've learned from experience is, like, 90% of the time, price plays a little bit of a part, but it more so has to do with, they want to know, are you going to close on the property, right? They've dealt with other people, or maybe they've only ever sold one house in their life, and it was through a realtor, and it wasn't a good experience. Whatever it is, by listening, you'll figure out their reasons and, needs to sell, whether that's move across country, or their mother may have passed in the house. Whatever that is, right? That's for you to find out. And by listening, being intentional, being a good person, and asking the right questions, mirroring people, I think if you put all those things together, you can build rapport quickly. But I think it all starts with just having a conversation. Don't make it super salesy, right? Like, just, if your mom's friend had a house to sell, how would that conversation go?
Yep. Yeah. And I think, like you said, having good intentions, being a good person about how you're going to treat them, all that authenticity is very apparent and shines through, and in the way that you talk, your mannerisms, all of that. So, yeah, great advice, man. Appreciate this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I know we have to up on time here. Thanks so much again today for coming on, Derrick. Really, really appreciate your time, man. How can people get in touch with you, by the way, that are with our audience?
Yeah, I think the best way is Instagram. But we're working on the YouTube and growing it. TikTok has a little bit of a following as well. But I mean, if you guys want to reach out, Instagram, and my handle is at flipping a house, one word, for everything. And I'm happy to help. I also don't have a lot of time, so don't hit me with dumb questions. If you can Google it, then Google it. But if you genuinely need help with something, I'm more than happy to help. Just realize if you can take 2 seconds to Google it, you know what I mean? Like, we have the internet. It's a good and a bad thing, right? It's made us a lot smarter and a lot lazier. So,
For sure. Yeah.
but yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help. And, if you're in Houston, would love to partner with you. I'd love to buy a house from you. I just really love putting deals together. It's like one of the most exciting things for me.
Perfect. There we go. Derrick, appreciate the time. You put out great stuff online, so can definitely attest to all your social media like that, and definitely go give them a follow. So I appreciate you coming on again.
Absolutely, my man. Thank you.
All right, to everyone watching, this is Matt Camp with DealMachine, and happy deal finding.